Let's go. Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, y'all. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
Hello and welcome to another episode here at West Coast Dogman Project. I'm your host, Shane Michael Crisp, and manning the co-pilot seat tonight is none other than Todd Metz. And we're happy to have the one and only Christel. Christel, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, looks like Christel's got a little technical problem there.
Okay. Well, Todd, how are you doing tonight, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How about you? How's the
I'm
weather
doing
down there in
great.
Central California?
It's great. We're sitting at about 91 degrees, 92 degrees. So not too hot, but not too, cold. So, I mean, we're perfect. How's the weather up there in
good,
Washington?
Yeah, it's nice today. It's sunny and been really no issues in the 70s. So it's really nice up here lately.
You got the perfect weather.
Yeah, of course. Well, when it's not raining, it's really nice. We don't have any issues up here as long as it's not pouring. But I think this weekend is supposed to be. So it looks like we got Christel back here. All right.
There she is.
Hi. I don't know what happened. That was weird. I said something went wrong.
Oh, it's all
doing
good.
All right. How are you all?
Okay.
We're doing great.
Good.
Christel, could you
Very
give
good.
us a brief bio on yourself, if you don't mind?
Okay. My name's Christel. I'll be 46 next month, and I have 2 children, and I'm from near Portland, Oregon.
Oh, right on.
Hey, excellent.
Right on.
Excellent.
I mean, we've got the whole West Coast here in this chat. We got Washington, Oregon, and California. So pretty cool. We're covering the whole West Coast.
Right.
Definitely can't beat that.
All
for sure.
in one area.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Christel, you and I talked on the phone a little bit back in May, and you were telling me about a couple of encounters that you've had. I'm kind of looking at my notes over here. You seem to have now. We want you to detail these encounters out for us. And one was outside of Milwaukee. Do I have my notes correct? Is that right?
Yes. That was actually, it would be 40 years this August since my first encounter.
Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I was doing the math a while ago. I was 6 years old, and we had just moved into a new house. I had just turned 6 because my birthday's in July, and it was probably the second week in August, and it was just a normal night. We had just moved in, so we were all tired and stuff, and so it was maybe 10 o'clock at night approximately. So it's I don't know, 1983, somewhere around there probably, and and so we had just probably went to bed, and my sister and I, we shared a bedroom, and actually we shared a bed. And so we were kind of in the corner of the room, and the window was maybe by 5 feet from where we were sleeping. And so we were both sound asleep as far as I know, and my family were all asleep. I have a little brother, and my parents are all sleeping. And so I don't think any of them heard anything, but my sister and I jumped up and sat up. We heard a noise or something, and we were, woken up out of a sound sleep. And we looked out the window, and at first we didn't see something there, but we heard rattling in the bushes. And so we continued to look out the window, and the window was about 8.5 feet off the ground, something like that. And so this thing was standing probably about the middle of the window. So I don't know, maybe 9 foot, probably around there. I would imagine that would be about the right height. And
Wow.
and yeah, and it had like these really bright red eyes. That was the first thing I noticed on it, and
Sure.
and it was just, it looked really angry. I don't know what the deal was, and it was growling. And I shared with Shane this video on YouTube about the things growling, and it like, oh. So you need me to stop a second?
No, you're good. Keep going. The platform is yours. We're all
Okay.
just listening.
Okay, so it almost made you feel like the ground was shaking, even though it was right off the window. And so you could like, it's a growl that goes right through you. I don't know how to explain it, but it makes you kind of shake. Or it feels like, you know, when you go to a concert and the drums are playing really loud and you just feel that in your chest. And I remember that feeling. And my sister kind of just looked at it, shook her head, rolled over, and went back to sleep. And later, I asked her if she'd seen it, and she said that she wasn't scared because her big sister was with her, and she was only 4.
Yeah.
So she's always been kind of a silly girl. So, but yeah, I don't know all the details. I don't remember what all she noticed, but I noticed this thing. It kind of like drooly on the teeth a little, and it was snarling, and I guess that's what you call it. But you know, and I was like totally scared. I couldn't get my eyes off of this thing because I was afraid. I don't know what if it was like it was telling me, or if it was just something a little kid would think. But I thought if I turned my head away from this creature, that it was going to get me. And I just couldn't really move. I was too scared to do anything. And it started tapping on the window. But this one, I don't know how many of them have seen the drawing of the LBL creature. It's probably the closest I can think of what this thing would look like. Like the humanoid looking, I guess, kind of closer to, kind of similar to Sasquatch, but it had the pointy ears on the top and more of a canine looking face than, you know, but not, it was just kind of like that, the LBL creature. The only thing that I can really picture this thing looking like, as far as what's the closest that I could picture. But
Christel,
they,
so the
you know,
photo,
they say that.
real quick, just that the photo that you're referencing is Bart Nunley's artistic illustration, right? Is it the one that he's drawn, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And real quick, just if we could throw a question in there, what color was the dogman? Do you remember the color of the fur or the hair?
I think it was like a dark brown. I couldn't 100% tell because it was dark. There was no light behind the house or anything.
Okay.
And we didn't have our night light yet, so it was. But it wasn't light. It was a darker color. But I don't think it was black. So probably closer to brown.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, Christel,
and it tapped on the window.
When it tapped on the window, no, that's fine. When it tapped on the window, was it that typical hooked claw type of looking thing? Do you remember what that looked like?
Yeah.
You know, I know it's
it. You know, they say like the canine looking ones have more like a raccoon looking hand, but this, you know, like I said, looked more like the Sasquatch kind of look. And so it had more of a humanoid hand, but it had claws instead of fingernails. Like if that makes any sense. And so I don't know how long it was there. I don't remember seeing it leave or anything. I just know it was gone. So I don't know if I fell asleep or something and it just took off, or if I turned my head or something. I don't remember exactly. but it just seemed like it was there for a long time. I don't know exactly, since I was so young, it's hard to remember everything.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
it was horrifying enough that I've remembered it my whole life. So.
Well, I was just going to make a comment on that. You said you were only 6, and 40 years ago, in 1983, I believe you said. So I mean that to carry that with you now, if you can remember, like from a timeline standpoint, like of course you were 6, you didn't know what this thing was. You got older. You probably thought about it a number of different times over the years and kind of tried to figure out what it was. I mean, back, earlier on, we didn't really know or understand very much about dogman, So what did you think that this thing was when you were like a teenager or something? You were thinking about it. So what was this, werewolf, or what did you really think it was?
I didn't really think about it completely about what it could have been. I kind of connected it to Star Wars at the time. So like a angry Wookiee or something at the time. But it didn't really even look like that, But, in the mind, because Return of the Jedi had just came out a year before that. And I was actually born the year that the first one came out. So, but
Sure.
So that's where I kind of put it too. But when I was a teenager, I just started learning about Bigfoot. And so I kind of thought maybe that, but then when I saw the pictures of Bigfoot, it didn't have, the pointy ears and, the hands. I never saw the feet, but the next morning, as I did finally tell my parents, we went outside and I showed them where this thing was standing, and there was 2 footprints there with the claw mark in the ground. And I've looked at, when I've been on your site, some of the footprints kind of look like what I saw, with the claw print and stuff. It was the longer foot, not the more canine looking one, If that makes any sense.
Now, let me jump in there and just say, ask you about, you discussing this with your parents. What do you remember? What they thought when you first talked to them about this thing?
It doesn't make sense because they did see the footprints, but even till this day, they don't tell me. I obviously saw something, but they don't believe in cryptids. Sorry, at all. There's no telling them that there was anything like that. So. So they just kind of shrug it off, or someone playing a prank or something, which I don't think that it would have been something like that. It was just, for one thing, it was way too tall. I mean, I don't know anybody who's like 9 foot tall. And
right?
It was the footprint. So.
Christel, real quick, I was going to ask you, does your sister still recall the incident, or will she not talk about it, or has she been real, does she keep it more dormant?
Yeah, she doesn't talk details about this at all. She just tells me that she knows that there was something outside the window, and that she knew I was there and that I would keep her safe. And that's all she's told me.
Sure.
So.
Wow.
So.
Hey, but you did a good job being a bigger sister, protecting her. I mean, even though you both were mortally, terrified of this thing.
Yeah. Yep, I was the oldest, so I guess I got stuck on my shoulders.
Take care of your little sister.
Yeah.
Now, you were in it's kind of interesting because obviously the Beast of the Great Road and stuff in southeastern Wisconsin. So this is not very far away from Elkhorn. So you're in Milwaukee.
Right.
So Milwaukee to Elkhorn is what, about a 45 or 50 minute drive?
Well, it's Milwaukee, Oregon, not Wisconsin.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Excuse me for that.
Yeah.
I thought
Oregon.
It was Wisconsin too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one letter different. So.
I get you because my note says Milwaukee, but excuse me for not getting the state correct. So Milwaukee, Oregon. So for
Yeah.
those of us who are not,
And
I just moved to the West Coast. So how far away, say, from Portland is Milwaukee, Oregon?
probably about 15 minutes away, probably,
Oh,
approximately.
okay.
And,
So it's
Very close.
behind that area, I don't know, I didn't really do a lot of detail, but we had like thorn bushes, and then behind there was a road, and then that road went to the river, and it was like a small forested area over there. So I didn't explain that, I'm sorry.
Oh no,
So
you're
I
good.
don't know. But
So
I
are
think
you
that
still
Platform
living in
part-
the same?
Christel, so
No, I'm not. Not in the same area. But we lived there at that place for like 21 years. Well, my family lived there for 21 years. So I don't remember what year they moved from there, but yeah, they were there for. Well, I grew up there, and yeah, so they were there for 21 years, and then they moved to Oregon City from there.
So give us a sense of the area where you were living. Urban, suburban, wooded. Give us a sense of what where the property was
Probably
like.
suburban. Probably suburban. I mean, it wasn't like in the city, but it wasn't like in the middle of nowhere either. I mean, like I'd walk to school and stuff.
Sure.
So it wasn't like super far, but there was part of the area behind it was forested. So maybe a block or two behind us, there was some small forested area that went to like the river. So I guess rivers, these things like to be near rivers or something. And so it's probably enough that they could hide in some of the area there. But, and then over the years while growing up there, I never seen it again, but I kind of felt like I've been watched a few times over the years, so I don't know if it was there and I couldn't see it, like it hiding, because we had a lot of trees behind our place, and like evergreen trees. So, and I don't know if they were hiding back in there or something else. I don't know, but I just know I got that feeling of being watched several times while I was living there.
Christel, real quick question. From your first encounter to your second encounter, how many years were, apart from there? Were you older, or were you a teenager, or were you already an adult from then?
I was 19. My second one. Yeah.
Could you explain your second encounter a little bit for us?
All right. So we were living in it was government housing, but it wasn't near a city at all. They had like public transportation, but it only ran 3 times a day to let you know how far out in the middle of nowhere we were. And there was country all around us, like farmland. And it was in Oregon City, well, close to Oregon City, but it's a place called Holcomb Road. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's basically in the middle of nowhere, and there was some maybe medium thick trees there, and like forested area. It wasn't like a really dense, like major big forest area, but I've never seen like wolves or coyotes or anything like that, but there was a lot of farm animals, and I know that these things can be attracted to easy kill.
Yep, exactly.
So, so I was, it was like little duplexes around, and it was, well, I guess about the time of day. It was between 3 and 4 in the afternoon, and it would have been early '97, and so the laundry was detached from the house, so we had to carry the laundry a little ways to get to the laundry, and so that's what I was trying to do, And so I was heading to do the laundry, and I heard a sound. Well, actually, I'm sorry. First, I smelled something. that terrible, urine decay type smell. Combined that, I hear a lot of these witnesses say the same thing. But I know I smelled that first. And so, your eyes are burning and you're just trying to, figure out what that is. And so I turned around, and this thing, it was on all fours at the time. And it had like this wolf look to it, like a gray wolf. So it was like that light gray with like some black in it. And this one was more canine looking, of course. And it was about 4.5 feet tall, approximately, on all fours. And so it's pretty good size. And so I kind of gasped. And I don't know if it heard me or what, but that's when it like looked in my direction. And I was like, what is this thing? Because I didn't, because like I said, I never saw wolves, or I don't think they were in that area. Mm-hmm. And so I was just trying to figure out what this was. And so I was like, it's a demon or something, I couldn't figure out what else. I didn't watch a lot of werewolf movies at the time, but I knew what they were. But but that was probably the closest I could probably figure it to be, would be a werewolf, as wow. Not knowing about these things, mm-hmm. But I don't know if you've ever seen Underworld, William, kind of the coloring of him, mm-hmm. kind of a combination of William and the guy on Bad Wolf, kind of a combination of those two. But yeah. Closer in color to William. Kind of sounds weird, but but so at first it was like sitting there, and it started sniffing around, and then it stood up. That's when I really started freaking out. Mm. And this guy had the more raccoon looking hands and like the wow. really long fingers. Mm. And I'm not sure. I thought it had something in its hand, but I'm not 100% sure. But because I was just kind of paying attention to how to get away from this thing, because I was about 5 feet away from the laundry and maybe 10 feet away from it.
Wow.
So I know not to run from prey, So I was like backing up slowly. And so I was trying to get my keys, and my hands were shaking because I was like totally freaked out.
Wow.
So I'm walking backwards, and it starts coming my direction. And so I finally get to the laundry room, and my hands are shaking. I'm trying to get the key in the hole, and I finally get in there. And about that time, I finally get in there. I close the door, and it was right outside the door. So wow. I don't know if he was curious, or if I don't know what the deal was exactly, but he stood there maybe a couple minutes, standing by the window, and I could try to hide behind the laundry machine. I don't know which one I hid behind, but I just sat there for a little bit, and I peeked around, and it stood there for a little bit, and then I saw I came around, and I saw it turn around, and so I slowly walked over to the window and watched it get it back on all fours, and it ran back into the forest.
Wow.
Jeez. Christel, how many?
Yeah, I was pretty freaked out.
No doubt. I remember we talked on the phone. I might have asked you the question before when you and I were going back on the phone there a while back. Were there any other people in the area? Did anybody else happen to spot this thing at the same time, or how was that? How did that fall out?
I didn't notice anyone seeing it. I didn't hear any talk about it or anything. they might have been around like in the parking lot or something, but I remember seeing people in the parking lot when I was coming back from the laundry room, but I stayed in there for a few minutes to make sure the thing was gone and to get my laundry started and stuff. But yeah, I didn't hear anyone say anything. I didn't hear any screams or anything. So I don't think anyone's seen it.
Christel, I had a real quick question. When you said you saw the creature when it was on all fours and then it stood up, did you hear any bones cracking or any type of crunching sounds, or did you notice any foul smells like, dead meat or just like spoiled meat or just wet dog?
Okay, so it sounded like, you go to a chiropractor and your bones are popping. Have you ever been to a chiropractor? But it was similar to that when it stood up. And then, yeah, the thing that made me notice it was the smell. It smelled, like strong urine mixed with like meat, dead meat smell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And, yeah. So.
And do you remember the color by chance?
Yep.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I'm sorry, Todd. I got the delay on my side, brother. I was just going to ask real quick.
No,
do you remember the color?
The color, it was like a gray, like a light gray color. It seemed to have like a little bit of black mixed in with it. Okay. Not a lot, but some. And you know how they say like it kind of has like a mane on the top, like a sticker on the top. So it was like that, like so as it went down towards less hair, like especially on the belly. And it was probably like 8.5 feet. I mean, if it was 4.5 feet tall, probably, I don't know, maybe double that when it stood up. Something like that. I'm not sure. But,
wow, sure.
So.
Yeah.
What was that?
How about facial feature? How about facial features, Christel, on this thing? Give us a sense of what that might have looked like to you.
Okay, so it had the ears like on the top of the head. They were probably about 3 inches tall with some tufts of hair on top of it. And it had a good sized muzzle. Longer than a German Shepherd probably, but a little bit thicker than that. And it had more wolf-like features than a dog. Let's see. You could see the teeth when the mouth was closed. I didn't notice this one growl or anything like that. I didn't hear any of those kind of noises. Maybe some breathing noises. Because I guess they have to have a pretty good lung capacity as big as they are.
Right. But, I agree.
And so a feature, it didn't. I know I've heard people say that sometimes they'll smile or whatever, but I didn't see anything like that. It just seemed like calm look, curious. You know how they kind of tilt their head when they're curious. Like, I don't know, trying to figure me out or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So this.
Right.
Yeah. So this was obviously a much different looking creature than the first one that you saw when you were little. So that's pretty interesting. So that's an interesting comparison to make between the first one and the second one.
Right. Yeah. So
that's pretty interesting.
And yeah, it's kind of nuts, huh? It's just weird, like how these things what make them look like they do or whatever. So I don't know.
Pretty crazy. So anything else that you can remember about this particular encounter that you'd like to share with us? We talked about location, and we talked about the physical characteristics of this thing. Basically where what you were doing, things like that. Do you remember Did you remember its legs or its feet, or did it have a
Yeah.
tail? That type of stuff.
Okay. Well, it did have the canine legs, like the haunch. I guess you call them haunches.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yep,
bent
bent
dog-like
back, yep.
legs and and the canine-looking feet. Probably. I didn't notice any footprint. Well, I guess I did because it kind of had. I forgot that part. It was like the end of the snow at that time, and so there was a little bit of footprints there. That's another thing I forgot, as I mentioned that I heard the crunching of the footsteps in the snow. But they were probably about 3, 4. No, I don't know. Pretty good sized footprint because this thing was pretty tall, but so bigger than a wolf. Or you know, I've seen wolves at the zoo, so
Oh yeah.
bigger
I
than the
mean,
ones I've
wolves
seen there.
on average have a 5-inch print. So I mean, if it was larger than 5 inches, I mean, you're dealing with something bipedally that's a canine with a larger print. So, like you said, 7 to 8 feet tall would make sense.
Yeah, it was towering me. So.
And give us a sense again, Christel, how far away from this thing were you? Again, I think you mentioned it, but tell us again.
About 10 feet, probably. Yeah, because it didn't seem like it took him long to get to.
Yep.
Hey, Shane, remember we were talking with Nick, and he was, we were discussing the difference between a sighting and an encounter. Well,
yes,
I think
it's an encounter.
I think this is definitely an encounter with 10 feet away for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I compared to the first one. The first one was just a sighting. I mean, obviously it was in the window, but second one was, being 10 feet away would definitely be an encounter. That defines encounter right there.
And then it kind of followed me, so.
Yeah.
And I guess when I got back to my apartment, my husband saw my face and he said I looked like I had just seen a ghost. So.
Wow.
I was like pretty freaked out.
Yeah.
So, and I tried to tell him what I saw, and I couldn't. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So we talked a little bit about your husband at the time had an encounter of his own at some point. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Okay. I can't ask him questions because he passed away just after the COVID thing, or just before
sorry
the COVID
to hear
thing
that.
hit. So,
yeah, we're sorry. We're sorry about that.
And so, but that's how I actually found out about dogmen in the first place, is because he saw probably, I don't know if you call it a teenager, but it wasn't as big. So it was a younger one. And it was in Northern California. And I'm sorry, I cannot remember the name of the place they went, but him and his cousin with the same name went hunting. They're both named Jimmy. But he called his cousin Waldo so that they wouldn't get confused. And so they went hunting, and they went late in the afternoon. It was like just maybe 11:30, 12 o'clock when they left. And so they went into the, to go hunting. And so they had been there a couple hours and they hadn't seen anything. So they decided to separate and do one last sweep of the area to see if they could spot any deer. And so about that time, Jimmy looked up the hill, and he saw a deer standing there. And so he got his sights, I think that's what it's called, where you could scope in the sights on it. And he saw look at the back of this deer, and there was this black hand sitting on the back of this deer. And so he didn't want it hit the wrong thing, and so he looked up the scope, and half of the creature was behind the tree, and it kind of was peek-booing around. Its head was coming up, like peeking around, and it was staring at him. And so he's watching this thing because he's trying to figure out what it is. And and he's kind of like standing stiff. He can't even get out more than a whisper. He's like so freaked out. And so his cousin comes back about that time, and he's trying to yell Waldo, but he couldn't get it out. So he's whispering. And so, and so this little bit of time between the time that Waldo was coming back and he saw this thing, just that little bit of time he looked at his cousin, this thing was gone. And so he's like, I just saw a Sasquatch, because, he didn't know what it was. And so he was laughing at him. He didn't believe him. He didn't believe in all this stuff either. But the thing about Jimmy is he's one of those people that don't like having a lot of tension on himself. He had some health problems as a child. He had an inoperable brain tumor, and so he went through a lot. And he always felt like people were judging him, and so he wouldn't be one of those people that just made up a story. Anyone who knows him well would have known that about him. And so I knew he was not lying, even though I didn't know him when this happened. But so somehow it came up in the conversation, and he said that he was hunting. He told me the story, and I asked him to describe it to me. And he says, well, I think it was a deformed Sasquatch. And I'm like, well, tell me what it looked like. And he said it had pointy ears, and that it had like the raccoon hands. It was black, and it had haunches and the canine feet and everything. He said it was between 5 and 6 feet tall. And I'm like, that does not sound like a Sasquatch to me. And this was in 2019. And so I started doing the research.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I started doing the research, and I came across the dogmen type pictures.
Mm-hmm.
One of the, I don't know which one it was, but it's the first thing I saw. And I showed him the pictures of it, and he said, that's what I saw. And so I was listening to Dogman Encounters at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
Jody Cook came on. I don't remember if one of you guys were ever on there, but I know Jody Cook was on there, and that's how I found out about you guys. And so,
Well, Jody
but
Cook's
yeah, so
the
that's
boss
how
for
I.
the NADP. So, I mean, him
Yeah.
being on Vic's show, I mean, you're going to run into Dogman. So, and he's one of the guys to go to. So, I mean, but being in
Mhm.
Oregon, I mean, do you remember what variant, if you look at the variant chart, Christel, do you remember, does it look more like the Van Helsing werewolf that your ex-husband had seen? Or was it more like the super soldier? Or was it more like the hyena look?
It was definitely one of the black ones.
Okay.
Canine. I think it was more the werewolf looking.
Werewolf,
Well,
okay.
yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty husky built. He
Probably
said it
like
was
a
built
variant
pretty.
3, probably.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. It's been a while, but
I had a
but
dual
yeah, I
screen.
remember it was pretty
posted
scary
up.
looking.
The ones
Yeah,
that are
it was
more
scary
built.
looking. I know that.
Yeah.
Huh?
I'm sorry, I don't have a second screen. I would definitely post the chart up right now. Almost, it sounds like Super Soldier Variant 3 with, like you said, how husky it was and that's how built it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he said it was small, so I'm thinking it was probably like I don't know if they have teenagers that, I don't know how it all works, but
Yeah.
it was not one of the taller ones. So,
Taller ones, okay.
but it was like around 5.5, 6 feet, so it wasn't super big, but it wasn't small either. So,
Wow.
So, Christel, going back to your second encounter, the one at the laundromat. So,
okay.
I'm just trying to think about what was going through your mind on what this thing was. Did you feel like it was, strictly some sort of an unknown animal that obviously you never encountered before, except for possibly, when you saw that one when you were 6, that you weren't exactly sure, obviously, what that thing was, because you didn't see the whole whole figure like you did near the laundromat. So give us a sense of what you think this thing was.
I was watching the other day where Jody was talking with Dave and I can't remember about supernatural versus extraterrestrial and flesh. I don't know if they can be a combination, but to me, with the height and some of the things these things can do, I think they're a combo of like the supernatural and flesh, to be honest. Because
I agree.
they
Sure.
eat and they breed, and typically supernatural stuff doesn't seem to do all that other stuff. And so to me, that's what I think they are. And this thing put off this like this kind of fear thing where you can almost feel paralyzed, but not quite that bad, but almost that bad, you know. But it didn't seem like some of the other stories I've heard where they're just completely evil. So I just think I caught it in the middle of maybe it was trying to catch something. I don't know, but yeah,
really
since
think
they
it had
eat
this-
and they. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So you're really thinking this thing it's flesh and blood. It's going to eat a deer or whatever it can catch and be happy with that. So that's interesting because, you know, Shane, I don't, you know, we get different guests on. We should ask them that type of question where, you know, what is their feeling, you know, when they first see this thing. And some people say, oh, okay, they have mind speak going back and forth. You know, who knows what that indicates. Some people feel that they're flesh and blood. Some
The
people feel
telepathic
they're
stuff.
extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, you know, you know, they're coming out of portals or they're seeing UFOs or UAPs or whatever you want to call them, you know, at the same time. So, you know, these are important, you know, little, you know, tidbits of information, you know, that we get from each person who's had these encounters that helps, you know, the whole community to kind of piece this thing together, you know.
I agree 100%, Todd. I think you hit the hammer on the nail with that. You know, ask the questions. Do you believe they're flesh and blood or paranormal or interdimensional? I mean, but you hear so many encounters on both sides that whether, you know, my personal belief is if they're eating on a deer carcass, they're flesh and blood. But when you see only one print and then you see them vanish behind a tree, there's got to be something to it, whether it's cloaking or interdimensional.
Right. I don't think flesh and blood can like do the where they talk to you when they're your mind.
Telepathically.
I don't think flesh and blood. Yeah, I don't think flesh and blood can do that. So
there's something to it.
And you
didn't.
And you didn't experience that, Chris. You didn't experience mind speak or any telepathic things when you saw the second one. So that's interesting.
No.
For sure. Yep.
Right. But yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I mean, there's too many weird scenarios around them that can be just one, you know, so that's what I think.
It's awesome. Well, thanks, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Shane.
Sorry about that, Todd. I know there's a slight little 3-second delay, but I was going to ask Christel, did you have any other dogman encounters after this one? Or have you just had the two and then the one with your ex-husband that he had seen?
I just had those two and the one with my late husband.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, it was just those that I personally have had, but I have heard other stories and you know and stuff. So
yeah.
Sure. Well, I think those two encounters were probably plenty. Hopefully, I don't have any more of those.
I agree.
Right.
I know you're up in Oregon,
You know,
so
you never know.
I mean,
the other thing
my eyes have gotten a lot
you are.
Huh?
The other thing is.
What'd you say?
Sorry about that.
Go
No,
ahead.
I was just going to say, Christel and Todd, you both are in Sasquatch country. I mean, Northern California is definitely Sasquatch, but Christel lives in Oregon. I mean, Todd, you're in Washington. So, I mean, dogmen are present around them. That's where I'm trying to differentiate. Are do these things coexist, or are they territorial? I mean, it sounds like they almost coexist more than they are territorial, unless there's young involved.
Yeah, I've heard of some stories, especially listening to like Vic's channel, but I've heard some others where they say that sometimes that they work together. They've seen where like maybe a Sasquatch got in trouble and a dogman, attacked whatever was coming after it. Heard things like that. And, I mean, I'm sure they fight each other too, but so yeah, I've heard of all these different things. But
Yeah.
I've done a lot of research myself, so but yeah.
No, you've done a great job with that, Christel. And I think, you're an asset to the community with doing the research and then also sharing your encounters with Todd and I tonight. I mean, I don't know if this is your first podcast or if you've shared a lot, but I think you did an incredible job by just presenting your encounters to us. And like I said earlier, before we jumped on going live, just telling Todd and I about your encounters. I mean, like I said, we're not in this for likes. We're not in this for subscribers. We're in this just to get the truth out there and people's encounters and just be ears and listen.
Yeah, I think for people's safety, getting them to know about these things is a good thing. Have them be prepared at least, and even if they don't believe, maybe they can be on the lookout more, and hopefully they don't do anything crazy and try to kill them, because that's when they're going to get themselves in trouble.
Right, go real bad.
Yeah.
That's one thing we try to promote is that, I mean, yes, we are part of the NADP, but West Coast is also kind of affiliated in a way, but we preach the same thing they do. We are a no-kill organization. We don't promote that. But like Nick Valente told us 2 weeks ago, that we have the right to go into the woods, but we also have the right to come home. So if you have to pack, whatever you have firearm with you, you have the right to, shoot one of these things that they come at you, because you have the right to go home to your family. So that's something I strongly advise to people. If you go in the woods, we have the right to come home.
Yeah. Don't purposely go hunting these things like that though.
Yeah. You're asking for trouble.
I mean, they're big wild animals, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. That's it's a scary thing, and you can attest to that for sure. And Christel, hey, thank you so much for coming on and sharing these encounters with us, sharing these stories, of her late husband as well. And it's really, it takes courage to do it, and you've got the courage, and you've done it, and you're sharing this stuff with everybody, and people should sit back, listen, and respect the people who are coming up with with these encounters and having the guts to do it. So yeah, we definitely thank you for that, for sure.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I just think
Christel,
people need to know about these things.
Yeah, thank you for everything you coming on tonight. Like Todd had said, do you have any last words you'd like to say?
Well, whether it's dogman, Sasquatch, either one, or whatever else is out there, just be aware of your surroundings. Try to be safe. Use your head when you're out in the woods or anywhere these things can be. Obviously, they can be not necessarily in the woods, but just keep your eyes open. Try to, not panic, and don't try to bother them and they shouldn't bother you too much. I mean, I've survived, and so, if I can make it through, you should be able to too.
I agree 100%.
Good advice. Good advice for sure. Well, thanks, Christel, for joining us tonight. It's been awesome.
Yeah, Christel, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
It was an honor to have you, Christel. And if you want to be a part of the West Coast and the NADP, just give us a holler. Like I said, we'd be more than happy to have you a part of the team. you're an incredible asset just hearing
Okay.
your encounters. So if you're ever interested,
Definitely.
I'm not
All right.
saying you have to, but if you ever think about it, just let us know.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Christel. You have a good evening.
All right. You too.
Take care.
Thanks. Well, that was a great interview, Todd. I mean, that one of the
Yeah.
best I think we've had. And
I'm telling you,
you get to
yeah,
the point.
super person. Glad she was able to join us. And, you know, the more people that come out and talk with us, that come on, you know, these shows and share their experiences with us, the closer, you know, we're going to get to figuring out what this thing is. And like, you know, like we say in West Coast, you know, the truth is, it's out there. We just gotta keep looking for it.
That's the tagline. You know it. I mean,
That's the tagline.
That's the tagline. The answer's out there.
The answer's out there. The truth is out there. It's a damn good one too. So hey, you know, you get people like Christel coming on. Hey, it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Todd, I wanted to ask you real quick. Do you want to announce what we've got going on in the near future, in the next week or two?
Yeah. So we've got Aaron Deese coming on the 22nd, who wrote the book that Shane is holding up right now, Texas Dogman Triangle. So he's gotten back to us and said that he'd like to join us on the 22nd and talk Dogman, and we'll, you know, we certainly are looking forward to that. It's going to be great to have Aaron part of the show.
Shout out to Todd for landing Aaron and Eric and, you know, Christel. You know, a lot of people don't realize that it's not me doing all the work. I think Todd does more work than I do. Todd is out there, you know, asking people to come on to West Coast Dogman Project and, you know, explain their encounters and just talk to them. I mean, Todd, how you were able to land Eric and Aaron, as well as Christel. I mean, and, you know, Will McSpadden. I mean, you've got, shout out to you, brother. And thank you for everything you've done for West Coast. And not a lot of people recognize that. It's not me. We are a team.
Yeah.
I never tried taking glory in
We're
this.
a team.
Yeah, I might have created it, but we are a team. And same with Miriam.
We are.
Miriam's in the group. Same with Lisa.
Yep.
Our whole group. But you are the one that's out there messaging these people and looking, you know, asking them if they'd be willing to come on and just talk about the Dogman phenomenon. And we are able to land probably the hottest author in the cryptid community right now, and Aaron Deese with his book release and being a small town monsters producer and author. So,
Sure.
I mean, awesome deal. So shout out to you, Todd, and give yourself a pat on the back.
Well, you know, like you said, Shane, it's a group effort. It's a team effort. It's, you know, we do a lot of stuff in the background here to try to get, you know, some decent content and some good shows, some interesting people to come on and share their experiences and, you know, their research with the community. And like I said, you know, the more we get to talk with these folks, you know, the closer we'll be to figuring out what this phenomenon is. Whether we do it, you know, this year or next year or 10 years from now, who cares? Well, at least we're working it and we're trying to, you know, figure out what this thing is for sure. So, yeah,
Exactly.
You know, it's been great. It's been good work, you know, working with, you know, with you and representing, you know, Washington and you're representing, you know, the whole operation and, you know, for NADP and West Coast. You know, I can't say enough about West Coast. What an awesome, you know, organization and page, you know, you've created and got this whole thing rolling. And, you know, I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Well, brother, it's an honor to have you. And like I said, I couldn't thank you enough. And hey, shout out to Todd. So Todd, keep up the great work you're doing, brother. Like I said, I know we'll text after the show and I'll give you a call tomorrow. And, you know, Todd's a good friend of mine and someone I can talk not just Dogman about, but just life in general. So it's hard to have you. So, like I said, Todd, you know, like I said, we've got a whole list coming up. I know we got Aaron Deese coming on next week, and then I think we start the UK series after that. And then I think in August we're doing the part 2s. I think Bettina, Nick, and I think Abe are supposed to be coming on. But yeah, so
yeah,
we got a whole summer that's loaded.
Or at least the fall and stuff. Yeah, I'm hoping Denise and I are hoping to get out to Fort Worth there for the I think it was at Fort Worth for the Dogman second annual Dogman conference. So we're hoping to do that. So
Yes,
you know,
Josh
get to
Turner's.
meet some of these. Yeah, Josh Turner's operation there. So that'll be cool. Hopefully we can do that. Get out there for a day or two and check that out. And you know, get out and meet some of the people who are, you know, doing some of the research and on the ground and stuff. And, you know, it's all good. Hopefully.
Well, I wish you and Denise
you
the
know,
best out there, brother. That's the thing. I know I talked to Josh a couple of weeks ago. I'm not looking for, you know, fame or glory, but I did call or
Yep.
I did text him and said, hey, you know, Lisa and I aren't going to be able to go because we got the baby, you know, coming in December.
Sure.
And then September, the week of the Dogman conference is our 1 year anniversary being married. I donated 2 tickets for people that are less fortunate that aren't able to go in honor of West Coast. And, you know, Josh brought me on and we talked about it. And so we've donated 2 tickets. So West Coast isn't going to be there presently, you know, under Shane, but Todd will be there. And then 2 representatives that were less fortunate that, you know, are going to be there under the West Coast, you know, bill, you know, or donation, I would say. I wouldn't say a bill, but donation. So,
it's awesome.
so yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Great that you're able to do that stuff and promote West Coast. And, you know, to tell you the truth, you know, I look at a lot of these Facebook pages and some of them may get more hits than, you know, we get more, you know, more attention, but none get the, you know, I mean, they all get good attention, but, you know, for everything, you know, all of the stuff that you've done, you know, for the Dogman community is top notch. So West Coast is definitely deserves, you know, the accolades for sure. And
I appreciate
great
that,
team,
brother.
everybody is for sure.
And that's
Absolutely.
what we
All right,
all do. And
Shane.
I appreciate that.
All right, brother. Have a good night. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you tomorrow, man.
Yeah, sounds good, brother. You have a good evening. Okay.
You too. Take care.
Thanks. Bye. Well, everyone, that was a great show. They seem to just get better and better each week. And huge shout out to Todd. Love that guy. Yeah, he just recently moved to Washington about a year ago. Like I said, he's the co-host. He's the guy. So next week we'll be interviewing Aaron Deese with the Texas Dogman Triangle book. I shared that earlier when Todd was announcing it. Oh, sorry, it's upside down. But also next week during the interview, we're going to be giving a free giveaway. So as soon as we hit 700 subscribers, I'm going to give away a free hat that I just got with West Coast. And then once we hit 1,000, we're going to be giving off a free t-shirt and a hat. So I just had these shirts made. They have the West Coast logo in the front and then our logo in the back. So yeah, we're going to be giving that all away. And then one thing I also want to promote is if you're going out in the field and you're researching Dogmen is tell people where you're going. Tell a friend, tell a family member, a relative, say, hey, we're going to this park. Make sure you're carrying either a firearm or just some type of protection because we're not dealing with just cryptids. We're dealing with real life animals, whether it be a bear, a leopard, a mountain lion, a rattlesnake. So one thing I recommend is letting people know, maybe get a Garmin. And I know they're not expensive, or they're actually pretty expensive. I mean, $300-400, I believe. But also maybe have a walkie-talkie. That's one thing I've invested in. Also invest in maybe a flashlight. You know, that's something I've got. Binoculars. If you're really wanting to view the whole tree lines and, you know, just check out the scenery. Another thing I think every researcher should have, tape measure. You know, if you see a print, definitely need to see it, measure it. So thank you all for watching West Coast tonight. We'll catch you next Thursday when we interview the Texas Dogman Triangle book author. So there we go. You guys all have a great evening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5